Hey, hi, and welcome to A Taste of Fusion. Today, I'm conjuring up yet another crazy iftari menu. I'm starting off with little sausage pots. Then, I'm making a tamarind roast chicken, and finally, apples with a lovely little caramel sauce with a little dates on top. And of course, I'm making my ultimate drink, which today is going to be melon and tamarind. So it's melon tamarind aid. But now, enough of me talking. I've got to go off, pick up my veg, get back to the kitchen, and get cooking. Right, now to get started with our appetizer, which today is a take, or my inspiration is toad in the hole. Toad in the hole is predominantly very English, and it's basically sausages baked in the oven with a little potato, a little hash browns on the side. What I'm going to do today is make a little sausage pot, and that is using all these fantastic spices from the subcontinent, which makes it a lovely little fusion piece. But now to get started. I've got some tomato which I've chopped up, so straight into my bowl about 2 tomatoes, rough chops. Then I have half a punnet of mushrooms which I've sliced, very fine little slices there. Pop those straight into your bowl. Now, once these are in, I thought sausages. Usually we just have them in the form of hot dogs or mixed with a little chutney on the side. I thought, why not serve them up in a completely different way and almost like a mini entree or a mini meal for your kids, I think it's very delicious, and because they're baked, well, that's what we're going to do to them. They're going to be very healthy. So here I have some fabulous chicken sausages which I bought from the grocer. Just chop them up, and I'm going to pop in about 5 chicken sausages into my lovely mix. In they go. Next, I'm going to add in about 1½ teaspoons of red chili flakes, half a teaspoon of coriander powder, 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, and this is fresh black pepper crushed up, 1 teaspoon of salt, and just less than 1/4 teaspoon or a large pinch of turmeric. Next, I'm just going to mix them up, make sure everything is coated well. Next, I'm going to add 1.5 teaspoons of plain white sugar. And this is basically to take the tanginess of the tomatoes away and create a lovely sublime flavor through the dish. Mix this in and add in the juice of half a lemon. There we go. Next, to add something that's completely unique, I've got these sort of dried onions, fried dried onions here, and I'm just going to pop in about 1.5 handfuls, which is about 3 tablespoons. And mix that in. And now add a tablespoon of balsamic vinegar. And of course, this is a lovely merger of so many different flavors. It's complete fusion because you have the Mediterranean, French, Italian sort of flavors coming through in the balsamic, the sweetness, which is also blending with the sugar, which is taking away the tang of the tomatoes and creating this lovely little sausage pot. Okay, so everything's mixed in. Okay, that's mixed, but because it's Ramzan, I want to add a little Ramzan fusion to it. And for that, I have these lovely dates over here. I'm just going to rip a couple of dates into long little strips and throw them straight in. And of course, this is a little fusion of my dried fruit in the month of Ramzan, and of course an ode to the date, which is so important as a form of the high sugar content, the energy that it gives to you after an entire day's fasting. And of course, it's going to be the secret ingredient in this lovely little sausage pot. Mix it all up. And then into your little ramekins, put in a layer of fresh onion at the bottom. Now this is only because you want to create a diversity between the dried onions and the sweetness that you will get, and also the little smokiness that you'll get out of the fresh onions. So fill up your ramekin with your sausage mix. Make sure you get quite an even mix of the tomato, the sausage, and the mushroom. Don't fill it all the way to the top. Make sure there's a little room because the tomato will break down and start bubbling up, and you don't want spillage. So that's one. Let's make another one, why not? There we go. Now, these go into a preheated oven for about 20 minutes. Right, so they're in the oven. One thing I must point out, I did not use any oil in that appetizer. Why? Because the sausages themselves are quite oily and will release that flavor and that lubrication. So that's in the oven for a good 20 minutes. I'm going to clear up now and get started on my main course. Right, now to get started on our main course, which is a take on roast chicken. But why would roast chicken be fun at iftari? Well, it would be if you use it with imli or tamarind. And tamarind is essential because it comes in the form of a sauce, with pakoras, with any type of fried food, as a side, you know, like a dippy thing. So today I'm going to merge that or fuse that and make a tamarind roast, which is going to be really delicious and perfect and fun for everyone to eat at iftari time. Okay, now first things first. I have this lovely chicken here with its skin on, and I think that that is important in this dish because the skin will take in all those flavors and create this, you know, sort of sweet, crunchy moistness to this entire dish. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my knife and sort of score the chicken, but not go too deep, all throughout the joints, like so. And this is only because I want steam to be created and for the chicken to cook very, very quickly. And also the tamarind to enter underneath the skin. Okay, now roll up your sleeves. And next step, I'm going to take a large pinch of salt and I'm going to coat the chicken evenly, like so. I'm going to rub it in and do each thing in steps. And make sure that you get some salt inside the cavity of the chicken because that's utterly delicious with all the juices working their way outwards. Next, 1 teaspoon of red chili flakes, which are going to go inside the cavity, and 1 teaspoon of red chili flakes, which will be rubbed onto the skin, like so. Now, here I have some khatai powder, or which is basically dried mango powder. And you can get it in a store in a box, or you can dry mango down and create it at home for yourself. Either way, it just adds a sourness to the meat. So I'm just adding this on right now in the beginning, because I want it to work its way on the skin, but just 1 teaspoon on the outside. I'm going to rub it evenly around. Next, pop your chicken in the middle of your baking dish and get your tamarind. Now, 1 large tablespoon inside the cavity, and use your spoon to sort of evenly spread it around. 2 on the outside. Just baste it with your spoon. And of course, you know, if you think that there's too little of it or you want more, and you really just love tamarind, just put on as much as you want. That's rubbed on. Now give your hands a wash. Okay, now for the stuffing. Well, what I thought I'd do today is just have a very light stuffing. And for that, I've got some sliced ginger, so about 1 tablespoon sprinkled into the cavity and around. Now I have here 1 teaspoon of sliced garlic, which I'm just going to sprinkle on the outside as well. Next, 1 teaspoon of sugar. And I'm just going to sprinkle this around, and this is essential with the tamarind, so tamarind releases its flavors and its natural tart, which will only come out once you put sugar in there. Then I've got these lovely potatoes which I have just diced up. I'm just going to pop them around the chicken, and this is going to be a lovely little roast. About 3 potatoes. Now season your potatoes, so a nice sprinkling of salt and 1 large pinch of red chili flakes. Some extra virgin olive oil and very little of it, so gently drizzle some on your potatoes, gently drizzle some on the chicken. Not too much though, because of the skin, that's, you know, it'll release all its natural oils and help, you know, the chicken cook in natural juices, so use less oil. Okay, then I have a couple of mushrooms left over. So I'm gonna cut them in half, quarter them. And I'm gonna pop these in the cavity of the chicken. So they'll act like little sponges. You know, usually in roast, you stuff the chicken with bread or rice, which act as a sponge for all the juices that are created inside. We're going to use the mushrooms instead of bread. So that's super healthy as well. In they go, 1, 2, 3, 4. Push them right in. Last but not least, a little balsamic vinegar, just to drizzle onto the chicken and onto the potatoes on the side, because it'll lend its beautiful color to them, and glaze them. And that's it, our bird is ready for the oven. So the chicken goes in a preheated oven for about 35 minutes at 180 degrees. Right, so our chicken's in the oven, and now it's time to make dessert. Right, so now for dessert. Well, I've got a pot on over here with about a pint of water, which is already on the boil on a high flame. What am I going to do with it? Well, I thought, what about caramelized apples? Now, usually they're made after making a, deep sugar syrup over a long period of time, and they're immersed in there and they're somewhat poached. Well, I thought, let me speed up the process and let me try and do something really cool with them. So, I've got the water on to boil and it's slowly beginning to simmer. What I'm going to do now is add in about 4 tablespoons of white granulated sugar. And then I'm just going to stir it up. Now this is a very quick sugar syrup. Let's mix this up. Now as the sugar dissolves, just add in just a dash of extra virgin olive oil. I'm just going to turn the flame down just ever so slightly. And here I have these fantastic apples. What I've done is I've taken a core and just taken the core out. That means you just put the core in, twist it, and this lovely cylinder comes out, and your apples are ready for bobbing. In they go. And of course, the water is just about halfway to my apples because I'm not actually poaching them. I move them around. And at this point, I'm going to add in a little fusion of sauce. 2 cloves and 2 little black peppercorns. Turn the heat down and just move your apples around, making sure that the water goes through the core. Now, just before you put the lid back on, squeeze in the juice of half a lemon. Cover your apples for a good 10 minutes. Now these need to cook down. The water needs to evaporate because what we're going to do at the end is add in a little milk and make a little cream of the apple with caramel. So let that cook for 10 minutes. Right, so it's been about 15 minutes and the water has reduced down. And as you can see, it started bubbling in this lovely way, which means it's caramelizing. But at this point, what I'm going to do is take the apples out. Take them out, sit them on a plate like so. Okay, now with the syrup that's left, I'm just going to turn the heat down and I'm going to add a little bit of milk. So about 200 mils of milk, in it goes, gently. Turn the flame up and start stirring vigorously. You've got to turn this into the toffee sauce, and that's what you're doing. Turn the heat up. Now, at the point where there's lots of small little bubbles and froth on the milk, add in another 100 mils. Stir it in very, very quickly. Add 2 teaspoons of granulated white sugar. And here I have some dates which I've pitted, and I'm just going to rip off slivers and throw them in, like so. Just a couple. This is just to add to the dessert. Mix it all in. Of course, now the milk is broken and we have sort of a caramelly, cottage cheesy sauce happening. turn the heat off, and return the apples to the pan to soak in all these juices. Lovely little sponges. And that's it, dessert is ready, and now I'm gonna make my fantastic drink because I'm really thirsty and I can't wait to dig into everything. So, on to our drink. Okay, now for the drink, which today I thought, let's make something with melon. Now you don't necessarily want a melon juice, but I thought a little fusion sort of element there could create something new. So I've got some lovely melon, which I've chopped up. I'm just gonna put in about 3 or 4 slices. It's up to you whether you want less melon or not. And then we're going to do something rather cool. Now, I'm gonna add some tamarind to this, or some imli. So 2 large tablespoons of tamarind, in they go. Then I'm gonna add just a pinch of salt and 4 teaspoons of granulated white sugar. And of course, a little zesty fusion, a tiny pinch of red chili flakes. Mix that up. Now, because it's quite thick yet, I'm gonna add in just a dash of water before I blend it up. This is just to aid the blending process. Okay, now to blitz this up. Okay, so now this is blitzed up. I'm just gonna add in a glass of water to liquidize it. Add in the juice of a quarter lemon. There we go. And of course, right on top, take a little bit of coriander, chop it up finely, and just throw it in, mix it all up again, and that's it. We are ready to plate up and serve up our iftari menu. Right, now my iftari menu is done, but let me walk you through it. I started off with my entree, which was a little mix of toad in the hole, a little, pizza topping with sausages. I made my little sausage pots. Now, technically, I would have served them with a little bit of cheese. I could have put some cottage cheese on top or some mozzarella, but I decided not to because I want to keep it really healthy and I want to keep it really light. There's some tomato in there, some sausage and mushrooms, which is a perfect little blend. Now, I've garnished it with a little coriander and some spring onions, only to bring the flavor out of the fresh onions and the dried onions I put in there. And of course, the basis is all the heavy subcontinental flavors which are at work. Moving on to my main course, which is my utterly amazing tamarind roast. And I've got these lovely little roast potatoes around it. And of course, it's really easy to eat, it's really fun, and everyone love it, and it looks utterly beautiful. You can use a lot of different stuffings for the cavity. For example, you could use cheese, bread, or rice, but I say try to get your kids or yourself to eat vegetables because A, they're seasonal, they're fresh, and they're very, very good for you and high nutritional value. So a little broccoli, some carrots, maybe some cauliflower, and then my dessert, which are my sort of blitz stewed caramelized apples. And now I've created a lovely little caramel sauce to go with it by adding in milk at the end into my sugar syrup that was going on there. Now, I've not used any cinnamon in here. And of course, I used a little dates in there because dates, well, they represent Ramzan all the time. And I think they add a unique sweetness to this caramel sauce, which will be perfect. And of course, because the apples have been cooked very, very quickly in the sugar syrup, they're not that heavy. And of course, you're incorporating fruit into your diet, which is essential in this weather. Now, I finally come to the end. Another fruit fusion, my melon and tamarind juice. And it's utterly light and refreshing. Well, at least I know it will be when I get to drink it. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. Remember, if you want to see me fuse something or have any comments, write in on fusion@dawnnews.tv. From me and my iftar menu, take care and see you next time.